Hey, what's going on, GameLeapers? This is Eggs, and in today's upload, we're going to be talking about the 3 most broken champions for patch 12.20, which is probably already on the Rift once this video uploads. So to make sure you guys know who the most broken champions are going to be in the roles you main, make sure you stick around for the whole video. And if you do want to master, guys, any of the champions we mentioned, make sure you check out our amazing content on our website at GameLeap.com. Linked in the description and comment section, our challenger players and coaches from around the world are uploading daily videos for your benefit. These might be champion courses or guides. They might even be some high elo VOD analyses where we talk through what the best players in the world do that you can easily do in your games as well. So to take your Summoner's Rift games to the next level, check out those links and let's get in to the 3 most broken champions for 12.20 for each role. And let's start by talking about the 3 most broken top laners. And starting off at number 3, we have Darius. Now for Darius, because there are no nerfs or buffs to really think about for 12.20, he has to be in consideration for the best top laner. Darius, ever since the durability meta hit the Rift in 12.10, has been killing it. And because fights in the top lane now are lasting a lot longer, this means that for Darius, with the Hemorrhage stacking, the Conqueror stacking, your W being on a 5-second cooldown, he is just so hard to beat. Now speaking of champions who are so hard to beat, what about Aatrox coming in at number 2? Now I know that Aatrox is getting nerfed in 12.20, so your passive is healing, so the actual amount of damage you deal, you'll be healing for 20% less off of that damage. So this means that for Aatrox, once you do start getting a lot of damage, and this could even impact you during the early laning phase, even once you have Serrated Dirk, let's say, so your sustain isn't going to be what it was. Side laning as well in the mid to late game, you will be healing for less, but Aatrox still has so many advantages. The champion is still innately broken because your Q, if you can land the sweet spot, it deals so much damage, and that's really been the case ever since Riot buffed it earlier in the season. Also, even though Eclipse got nerfed, you can go Gore Drinker, and just with these two things, the Q sweet spot damage and Gore Drinker in the active, because most people as well in solo queue are going to play at melee range, you heal for so much still. So the passive nerf, it is a legit nerf, but Aatrox will still be incredibly strong. But these two champions, Aatrox and Darius, and the rest of the top lane roster are beaten to the number 1 position by Nasus. Now the reason Nasus is here, well, it's really because of the 12-19 buffs. So to your ultimate, the extra Q range you get, which has been doubled, and also the tick damage, which happens twice as often now, these have been huge for Nasus. Also the fact that you're slowing the enemy's attack speed by more based off the movement speed slow you apply to them with your Wither. Think about top lane champions, lots of them rely on attack speed. They might run attack speed in their runes, they might even build attack speed in the actual game itself. And even in high reloads where Nasus kind of struggles, Susan has an incredibly high win rate, which really goes to show how good this champion is. Now heading into the jungle here, we have Fiddlesticks coming in at number 3, so if your team needs a bit of AoE and a bit of magic damage, Fiddlesticks is honestly the best choice. Ever since Riot buffed your Crow Storm's damage, so in terms of the base damage, also the AP ratio, and they also increase your Q's fear duration in the same patch, Fiddlesticks has just been a great champion, and will continue to be so. There are no nerfs to this champion or his items, so he is number 3. Now coming in at number 2, this is Bel'Veth, and you guys know that I don't really like mentioning this champion because she's just so innately busted. Because of her kit, whether it's the mobility, whether it's the DPS, the damage reduction, the champion is just so annoying to play against. Even though she did cop like 3 to 4 nerfs a few patches ago, you know, when Riot increased her actual attack range by 50, kind of like what they did to Yi, it's just made this champion too good, and she still has above a 52% win rate. But Bel'Veth and Fiddlesticks and everyone else, they are beaten to the number 1 position by a champion who's getting some giga buffs in 12.20, this being Rammus. So for Rammus in 12.20, one of the big bonuses for Rammus is that you're no longer going to get slowed when you activate your W. Now this is huge, because when you're actually taunting an enemy champion and activating your W, the actual self slow you apply to yourself, it's a bit of a cut. So this being completely removed from the game gives you more mobility, and it just sounds so broken. Like if you've played Rammus, you are definitely going to notice this. Also your ultimate, you're going to get more speed in it. So when you actually take off, this is going to scale more off your original movement speed. So these two buffs, in particular the slow buff, this just means that Rammus is going to be even more oppressive, and he already kind of is at the moment. His win rates in the majority of elos suggest that he's doing very well, and he will absolutely kill it in 12.20. Now let's head to the mid lane, and coming in at number 3, this is Syndra, who got changed last patch. And for Syndra, because of the new changes, so to your passive, the splinter stacking, so get a 40, 60, 80, your basic abilities, they become empowered, and your empowered basic abilities are so, well, just empowered, I guess. The fact you have 2 Qs, your W is dealing more true damage, and your E, the cone radius is 90 degrees. Like, how is anyone going to miss this? You can have your monitor turned off, you're going to land your Scatter of the Week now. Also, your ultimate, executing champions if they're at 15% of their max HP, how is that not busted? So Syndra is number 3. Now number 2 on the countdown, maybe a champion, an AP champion who's better than Syndra, this is Fizz. And just like Syndra last patch, Fizz got changed, but for the good as well, right? So your E, the AP ratio going up 15% from 75 to 90%. This has been huge for a champion who, well, all about one-shotting. So as you start scaling into a game with your Luden's Tempest, the Mythic passive giving you more magic penetration with Sword and Lichbane and Zhonya's, all of that AP you're getting is getting pumped into your E, which you will be maxing first progress, of course, and these buffs have seen Fizz go from maybe like a 50-51% champion to well above a 52% in the majority of elos. So he's number 2, but both of these champions, Fizz and Syndra, are being to number 1 by the best attack damage mid laner and mid laner in the game, this being Zed. Now, I know that some people might think that Zed isn't broken, but according to the statistics, this champion is loving life, and there are some good reasons for this. Whether it's the actual Shadow Slash buff to Zed, so the energy cost going down by 10 a couple of patches ago, whether it's the Scorch buff, when you run this in lane with Transcendence, you deal more damage and you have more kill threat. Also, the sustain nerfs in the game in 12-14, so health pots, healing for less, refillables, corrupting potions, everything healing for less here for Zed, because you're starting with 3 health potions, you legit have the most sustain out of anyone, so you can easily out-sustain your opponent. Now, the Eclipse nerf, where it's actually giving you less lethality, maybe you have to go Duskblade or Prowler's Core in more games, but is that a big deal? No, of course not. Zed is still the number 1 mid laner for another patch. Now, heading down to the bot lane here, guys, and if you do want these videos to continue, please let us know by leaving a like down below. And coming in at number 3, we have Kai'Sa, and because of the buffs to her passive, so there's a bit more AEP in your passive, this allows you to go something like Nash's Tooth, and you can go Nash's Tooth with your Kraken Slayer setup. You can go Nash's Tooth if you're opting for something like Luden's Tempest even. This is still viable, and because of all the buffs to Kai'Sa, well, kind of in recent patches, on top of the buff from last patch, they've really pushed it into OP territory. According to the stats anyway, she is a solid S tier AD carry, so she is number 3. Now, number 2, a champion who might not be an S tier AD carry in most elos because he's difficult to play, this is Draven. But when he is played by the best, and when you can actually play Draven well, this champion is still as oppressive as anyone. Also, if we think about other AD carries, like who's actually strong during the laning phase at the moment? Like when you guys get into a game, do you actually like fear an AD carry who you might go against? Of course not, right? Like so many champions have just been nerfed, so when you pick Draven, you just know you're going to win lane. That's just how it goes. Even with Eclipse getting nerfed from last patch, it hasn't really affected anything because Essence Reaver and Serrated Dirk, it's really all you need, so Draven is number 2. But the best AD carry out of the bunch, this is Tristana. And there isn't really an obvious reason why Tristana has all of a sudden become so good, because there hasn't been a buff in 12-20, nor in 12-19 or in 12-18. The last one was in 12-16, which increased your Q's attack speed, so I guess this helped a little bit, but Tristana has really just been sitting there and chilling with an exceptionally high win rate at like 52-53%. Now, we might have to take into consideration that lethal tempo is getting nerfed for ranged champions in 12-20, so the actual extra range you get once you auto-attack an enemy champion 6 times, this is going down by 25-50 now. So lethal tempo is a keystone. I mean, this affects every AD carry, don't get me wrong, but this will affect Tristana as well, but you also have the option of going Hail of Blades, and I'd really recommend taking Hail of Blades if you have an all-in support, so something like a Nautilus, Leona, because you're all about that burst damage. But Tristana's such a good AD carry, very versatile, you can punish your enemies' mistakes during the laning phase, you scale as well so well, so she's number 1. Now, the 3 best supports, guys, for 12-20 coming in at number 3, this is Zyra. And because of the buff a couple of patches ago to Zyra's E, where you're not getting locked down as much when you actually use your grasping roots, this means that for Zyra, you have a bit more mobility and just flexibility, I guess. You don't just have to stand still and watch your grasping roots animation. So this allows you to gap close a bit more to the enemy champions if you land your E. This also allows you to disengage quicker if you're trying to get out of a sticky situation. And kind of like I mentioned for Zed, the sustainers mean that a poke-based, kind of high damage support like Zyra, especially if you're running something like Comet and then Scorch in your sorcery tree, you deal so much damage. You are so oppressive in the bot lane, so she is number 3. Now, the second best support, and she still might have the highest win rate out of any champion in the game, this is Janna. And 12-20, because there's, well, just really no nerfs you have to worry about, Janna's going to continue to be one of the premier picks because of the changes to Janna in Season 12, so your Q traveling very fast, pair this with Glacial Augment, it's such a good peeling tool and also like an engage tool as well. Also because your low cooldowns, your amazing peel, I'm sure we all know this by now, like if you've played against a Janna in 12-19, well, I mean since they changed Janna even, you will know why she has to be in this countdown. But the number 1 support is actually a champion who is getting changed quite a bit in 12-20, this being Blitzcrank. So even though your Q's damage from rank 2 onwards is going down, even though your passive shield is going to scale from 15% to 45% instead of being a flat 30%, so during the laning phase you're not going to be as scary, I guess. These all mean something, right? But do they mean enough? Are they going to bring Blitzcrank's win rate down from like 54% down to like 51-50%? I don't think so. It might go down like half, maybe a percent, but that's about it. Blitzcrank is still going to have easily enough one-shot potential because his base damage on his Q is over 100. Also, his ultimate's base damage that got buffed in the same patch as his Q, so we're talking like 5, 6, 7 patches ago. All of that power is really still staying there, and because so many supports pick Enchantresses who are immobile, even Janna who we've talked about, maybe Lulu, Soraka, Sona, all of these champions, as soon as you land one hook, they're going to go boom. So those were the top 3 most broken champions, guys, for each role in 12-20. Think about playing these for your own champion pool and LP for the next couple of weeks, and until our next Season 12 upload, this has been a... Peace.